Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
It's been a lot. So, that I'm, anti-science, I'm reckless, I'm dangerous. I was involved in this riot to seize the Capitol. I was in the Capitol building, apparently. And just that I'm putting people's lives at risk. I'm, a danger to all my patients. And it's gotten really ugly.
As more dissenting voices come forward with concerns about the harm lockdowns are doing to society under the guise of saving lives, the only way to help keep the house of cards from crumbling is to smear campaign those same voices. I'm Tamara Ugolini for Rebel News, catching up with Kristen Nagel, a nurse with 14 years of experience, more recently in pediatrics and specifically at the neonatal intensive care unit. Some of you may remember the interview I did with Kristen at the beginning of January. You can find that at rebelnews.com. At that time, she was getting ready to fly to Washington, D.C. to speak at an event called the Health Summit, which was organized by herself and several other nurses through the Global Frontline Nurses Initiative. Since Kristen's return to Canada, she has been subject to a complete skewing of events and a witch hunt by people choosing to live their lives in constant fear, fueled by the endless mainstream media propaganda. So I caught up with her today to get her side of the story and to clear a few things up. Have a listen.
We went to DC January 6th. We spoke by the Supreme Court on a health stage with other speakers like Del Bigtree, Mickey Willis, Kevin Jenkins. It was really great. And it was just the energy there from that crowd was amazing. It was so positive where we were. Our message seemed to be received very well. And yeah, I don't know.
It sounds like there's a stark contrast there between what we saw here in Canada from our mainstream media and what was reported, on CNN and some of the more mainstream news sources in the United States. So that wasn't your experience at all when you were in DC. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, no, not at all. Especially the area we were at, just energies were high, energy was positive. People were just so engaged, wanting to hear us. All the other speakers were amazing. And, some of the nurses even said that we just came off that stage, just feeling, so united and proud, and I'm glad that we got our, stories across. And one of them, they left right shortly after, and it was just so sad to see how such a positive experience and something that we did and uniting to share our stories and coming together was tainted with all the news and all the media. It kind of took away from what we were feeling from, where we were on that stage and what we experienced.
Mm-hmm. So this was two very separate events. Now you didn't experience any violence, any aggression, no rioting, what was coined, I think, even as domestic terrorism.
No, not at all. It was actually kind of funny because we were heading back to the hotel room. We were all wrapped up, and my husband's messaging me, asking me if I was okay and what was happening. And I was like, I'm fine. What's going on? So he had to fill me in, actually.
Oh, so you weren't even aware that this was happening elsewhere?
No, I had no idea what was going on. We did because, we weren't too far away. So we did hear a lot of sirens and police cars driving in, and we wondered, we were like, wonder what's going on. But no, I had no idea. No, my husband filled me in.
And as a mom and a nurse who's there to speak about specifically health problems, I assume that you probably wanted to steer clear of anything siren and frantic related.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to get involved in that.
But since the last time we spoke, like I said, back before you went to the DC rally. And at that time, your employer had put you on an unpaid leave for essentially speaking out and advocating for some of these policies that you called contradictory to ethics, and wanted to see some of the more ethics brought back into these policies that, the separation of babies, the masking of birthing, laboring moms. And so now, since your return back to Canada, you have officially been fired from your nursing position.
Yeah.
What kind of smear campaign have you been at the forefront of since your return to Canada?
Oh, it's been wild. Yeah, it's been a lot. So, that I'm, anti-science, I'm reckless, I'm dangerous. I was involved in this riot to seize the Capitol. I was in the Capitol building, apparently. And just that I'm putting people's lives at risk. I'm, a danger to all my patients, and it's gotten really ugly. That I'm a terrorist, being reported to the FBI, CSIS, RCMP, and the RCMP showed up at my door. That was interesting. It's been a lot. The smear campaign and the slander has definitely been a lot. There's been petitions about me to, make sure my license is revoked, and it's just it's been ugly.
Mm-hmm. And you can confirm that you have followed protocols upon your return to Canada, the quarantining. You were safe in the way that you conducted yourself while you're in DC. An elected official who makes, an extravagant amount per year, you can travel abroad and go to St. Bart's and fly to Hawaii. Here you are as a nurse trying to speak out and save lives, because you've seen that lives are being damaged and hurt by these policies. And as we see, any dissenting voice is just vilified. You just yesterday rallied with other healthcare professionals, specifically from within Canada, who are also coming forward now to speak out against this COVID narrative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been really great. So since we announced the Canadian Frontline Nurses, the Canadian chapter from the Global Frontline, we had just a massive response and emails coming in of nurses from across Canada that want to speak out, and PSWs and RTs and doctors. And it's been overwhelming in a very positive way. It's been amazing just to see people wanting to come forward. So yesterday we recorded all these statements and testimonies, and some people came on live, they streamed in and recorded their statement. So we're putting this together as we speak, and this should come out early this week. And we're really excited to start getting these voices heard. And unfortunately, so many of the people that have come forward came forward anonymously. So we read the statements on their behalf, but there is so much fear about speaking up and having a different opinion and challenging the narrative. There's a lot of fear about losing jobs and licenses, and it's really preventing all healthcare professionals from coming forward and really being able to state their concerns and challenge the narrative of what they're seeing. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak on how many came forward at your summit yesterday that you held with the Canadian Frontline Nurses Initiative?
Yeah, I think there was over 20 just yesterday. And we said, that's just our first one. So this is just to kind of, peel off the Band-Aid, get this started and start this ripple effect. So yesterday was just the first, and hopefully this will just open up the floodgates and more will continue to come forward. So yesterday was about 20 statements.
And has that increased exponentially since we last spoke at the beginning of January?
Yeah, definitely more coming forward. Even we're having nurses come forward from Australia, from Ireland, from Sweden. So people are ready to speak up. And I know there's a lot of fear behind it, with the consequences that can happen. I just keep saying we are so much stronger in numbers. The more of us coming forward, they can't do anything. If there's more people coming forward that actually have a concern and that are actually advocating for their patients, for their well-being, and for our communities, then we need to listen, right? And they can't do anything with strength and numbers. And I know Sarah, the other nurse in Toronto that I work closely beside her, she's been working on this petition that she's going to bring, hopefully to law, and it is to protect nurse advocates, whistleblowers, to protect our licenses. So we're working on all angles to make sure that we are protected for doing what's right. And that's.
Can we find that petition at the Canadian Frontlinenurses.ca website?
When it's up and ready, I think there's just a few kind of tweaks that need to be done, but absolutely that's where it will be. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought up that note about a petition, because there's been a petition to launch to support you. So maybe you can tell us, change.org, someone has launched a petition essentially calling on your hospital and your union to back down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it started because there was an initial petition that was calling on my hospital and my board of nursing, College of Nurses, to terminate me and revoke my license. So that's the first petition that came out. So someone started a counter petition, allowing me to continue to be a nurse and keep my license. And it's been actually really amusing to me to see the difference. So I think the negative one, after weeks of being up, is about maybe 500 signatures. And I'm pretty sure the positive one is now over 3,000.
Wow.
So it's been kind of interesting just to kind of see the comparison there. Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the silent majority is starting to not be as silent.
So silent anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen, is there anything that we didn't touch on? Anyone else you have a message for, or any other word you'd like to get out?
I just think I've been saying this lately, that things maybe look a little tough or scary, and I know it's hard to speak up, but now is the time. Now is the time to come forward, to share your story, to share your experiences, to share your concerns and questions, and to not be scared.
The icing on the cake here is that in the very town of London, Ontario, that's where Kristen lives, the CEO of London Health Sciences Centre, Dr. Paul Woods, has traveled to the United States 5 times since March of last year. Woods was eventually terminated. Shortly thereafter, Halton Police Chief Stephen Tanner was under fire for traveling to Florida for the holidays. He apologized and got off scot-free. And what about Dominique Baker, acting manager of the Public Health Agency of Canada's Office of Border and Travel Health, who accepted an all-expenses-paid holiday to Jamaica courtesy of Air Canada Vacations, despite advising Canadians to avoid all non-essential travel back in November? Dominique apparently reflected on her travel choices, apologized, and also got off scot-free. So if you travel for leisure, you can apologize and reflect on your poor decisions while enforcing everyone else do as they're told. But if you're an advocate for patients and people who are suffering at the hands of unethical, big government policies, then you're obviously slandered with an endless smear campaign for wrongthink. Welcome to the hypocritical normal. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Here at Rebel News, we're trying to put an end to these unjustified restrictions and policies that decimate the little guy while putting the bureaucratic policymakers on an even higher tiered pedestal, all while they sit on an unabated 3-figure income. If you'd like to help us help small businesses and advocates who are being fined by these same bureaucracies, please consider donating what you can to fightthefines.com so we can continue to assemble lawyers and contest the dictatorship in a court of law. That's fightthefines.com.